All right, Brady, what's it like for you to be back here at Ohio State today?
It feels good. I mean, it's been since summer ball or spring ball or whatever. So, being able to compete and, be out here and get better, it's a lot of fun.
What's this just been like for you this summer? Obviously, you went to UCLA and made the visit there. What's it kind of been like juggling that with still being committed to Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point in recruiting and in college football, it's a whole different game. So, you gotta kind of look out for yourself in a sense, and that's kind of what I'm doing. At the end of the day, it's a business. It's turning into one day by day, and so many rules are changing. So for me to just, continue to talk to schools and continue to, be a recruit still I think is key to just protect myself at the end of the day.
How big is this week for you in terms of determining whether or not you're going to stay committed to Ohio State?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just, communicating with the staff and just everything and, clarifying stuff and just, getting through this process, because at the end of the day, I think wherever I end up, I think I'm going to, I think it's just what you make the most of it. And, so just, communicating with the staff and just getting through it, yeah.
Do you feel like they've done that with you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've only been here for about not even 24 hours so far. So I think once my OV gets going, have a little bit more, solo time and everything like that. But yeah, just being able to compete today is, all that matters.
You mentioned kind of clarifying that. What kind of clarity are you looking for when you leave on Sunday?
I think just in my mental, I got a couple questions I want to ask and everything. Obviously, the whole 2-quarterback world is a thing at this point, which I have no problem with. I just want to make sure, we're on the same page with everything and, how we go about this is correctly. And, I think it's been okay so far, but just making sure everything's good and so I can make the best decision at the end of the day.
I think you said last summer that you would be okay if they took another 27. Is that still the case?
Yeah, okay but I mean, I think, a lot of conversations have been had, whether it's, with Ohio State or with my, my head coach or my family and everything like that. At the end of the day, there's always going to be another quarterback. When I get here, there's going to be 4 no matter what. When I go to the NFL, you might get drafted in the first round next year. Next year, they're going to 3rd rounder or vice versa. That's just how the game of football is. So by no means, I'm not worried about it.
How much communication have you just had regularly with Coach Day, with Coach Fessler?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to Coach Fess once a week or so, on the phone or just texting or whatnot. So I've been in the loop. Everything's been good.
Do you feel like at this point, are you pretty much just down to Ohio State, UCLA, or are you still looking at any other schools?
Yeah, there was several others that kind of reached out. For me, I'm not going to waste anybody's time, especially my own and especially theirs. So if I'm not interested, I'll tell them how it is. There's schools, some SEC schools, some other Big Ten schools that I just didn't really see myself at. That's the biggest thing. Throughout this process, my biggest thing that I focused on is football's taken away from me. Can I see myself there? And there's a lot of schools that I don't see myself there, and UCLA and Ohio State are just those major 2.
Is this stressful for you?
Nah, I think my parents is more stressful than me. I'm a laid back person. I'm pretty neutral minded, so I'm all good.
What is it clear just how much this football team means to you as a fan?
As Ohio State, you're talking about?
Just how?
Yeah, I mean, it would. If for whatever reason it ended up going the other way, it would be a tough thing to walk away from. Just because, I've been a part of this for so long. Obviously committed for 18 plus months, one of the longest commits in all of the class. So it means a lot. I mean, my family, just everything like that. My grandpa obviously being from here, so it's a big deal.
One of the things coming out of the Elite 11 was talking about your accuracy and strength, but some of the movement stuff was questioned a little bit. How do you react to that, and maybe how do you work on some of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I've been hurt for the last year. I finally got healthy within the last month or so. So, just for me, it doesn't matter. I know I can play football. I'm not worried about, what someone says about me, because at the end of the day, I think, whatever the rankings say, whatever you want to look at that, for me, every single camp I've been to, I've done well at. When the rankings dropped or whatever, I don't even look at them anymore. When the rankings dropped after my sophomore year, I was a max prep first team All-American. So for me, I'm not worried about any of that. It's all hearsay, they say. I'm not. It doesn't matter to me.
You mentioned kind of the business side of things and kind of picking that up. Was that a hard lesson to learn so early on in your recruitment, and a hard thing to kind of pick up? That it's it's obviously the personal feelings matter, but so does the business too.
Yeah, my dad always says all the time, like, he's old school. You pick a school, you go there. Obviously with NIL, it's not like that anymore. There's so many other factors that go into it rather than just, okay, I like that, so I'm going to go there. Not now, is NIL the sole purpose of anything? Absolutely not. Because again, what I just said, I take away football, am I happy there? Take away that, I'm not going to be happy at school. I just go to for some couple bucks. That's not who I am. But I mean, yeah, it is a little difficult because, like I said, I wish it was just you go here. Yeah. There's nothing else to do with it, but that's just not the case in this era of football.
What lessons did you learn about the business, and what kind of lessons have you learned in these last couple of months, and maybe a year or two?
Yeah, I mean, like I just mentioned, being neutral-minded. I've reading a lot of books and doing all that. You kind of learn about stuff like that and just don't care about the outside noise one bit. And I think I've done that pretty well. And for me, the main thing is always going to be the main thing. So, yeah.
What'd you make of your UCLA visit, and sort of how did it compare to what you already knew about this program?
Yeah, I mean, UCLA is a special place, and it's turning into one. Obviously, just not even football. You take away football, it's one of the most prestigious athletic, everything in just the country. So I mean, they're gonna be good whether I'm there or not, whether I go down that path or not. They're gonna be a good football program. Coach Chesney wins, so it's a special staff over there for sure.
You mentioned that all these other schools reached out to you. What made UCLA the one school that's really given you something to think about?
Coach Chesney probably. Coach Chesney, Coach Kennedy, the OC, and then the quarterback coach, Coach Boyer. They just got a good staff there. Obviously, being close to home. There's some SEC schools where I don't see myself living there. You know what I mean? Like, my sister goes to Ole Miss, great school. I can't see myself in a small town like that. Like, it's just not who I am. So, I mean, yeah, that kind of jumped off the page to me, and then just how the staff handled everything and how they handle communication and everything like that. It's just a solid program.
How much does that proximity to home factor into this decision?
Not a lot, to be honest with you. Like, people out here are like, damn, you're from California. Like, I've never even thought about that. For me, it's just, California is a really cool place and a really special place, and I love California, and I'll be honest, so that's kind of just the main thing. But being close to home, yeah, I could care less.
And do you have a time in mind where it's like, I need to make a final decision on where I'm going?
Not at the moment. I'd say there's a time where I'd like to get it done, and that's probably as soon as possible. But again, I never thought I would really be in this position to begin with, so we'll see.
How will you know?
Well, I think when all my questions are answered and I can look at everything and, kind of just put everything in front of me, whether, I've had friends that do a ranking process. They're like, okay, this is a 3-1, different schools and stuff like that. So that might be a thing that I look into. But, I mean, I think no matter what, I'm going to end up at a program where I can make the most out of it. For me, Ohio State's a special place. UCLA is a special place. But at the end of the day, my belief is that, I make the most out of it at the end of the day. A school can help me get there, but a school can't single-handedly get me to the next level. So it's just what I make the most out of it.
So if you get those questions answered today or this weekend to your approval, like, does that move things along for you in terms of?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
What kind of conversations, you mentioned, I know how important your parents are to you and everything like that. What kind of conversation you can have with them about maybe what lessons you can take from them and what kind of things you want to learn about this weekend and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think my parents are learning a lot from me right now. My dad's kind of a roller coaster with emotions sometimes, though. Just kind of, like my parents always talked about, they wanted to rush this. They wanted to get me out of college or already in December. My dad wanted to be December, and my mom's like, hold it, because, you only got so much time, too. Sure. So just being a kid at the end of the day, like, that's why, like, the neutral mind and stuff, like, I'm just, I'm cool with it. My parents are letting me make my decision, which is grateful for that opportunity because some people don't have that opportunity. But, yeah, I'm just going through the process and loving the process. There's only so many kids that it might seem crazy, it might seem stressful, but there's only so many kids in the country that have this opportunity. So,
how'd you feel about so far in the 7-on-7 and how you performed?
I feel great. 7-on-7. I'm not a huge fan. I like real football, but it's definitely more difficult too when you're throwing with guys you never played with. But actually, we have a solid squad, some decent dudes, a few good receivers, and obviously 4-0 right now. So hopefully, just keep that going.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Brady.